you so much for joining us on our 100th episode of Lunch Out Loud Ottawa. My name is Nick Pachuski.
And I'm Andrew Miller.
And we have a very special episode, as always, for a 100th episode. But we're the podcast that talks to the people, places, events, and music that make this city the incredible city that it is. And our guest today is Mark Monahan, who makes our city incredible.
Absolutely.
Makes you look forward to every July and now in September now. So we're excited twice a year from him. And before we get to him, why don't we check this out.
Hey! We're the Steamers, a power folk band from both sides of the Ottawa River. This year it's been really great. We just released a live party EP in the fall, which you'll hear 2 clips from, our songs Mike and Stay Here to Bleed. And at the end of this podcast, you'll hear a currently unreleased track from our debut album being released this spring. Come party with us at the Ottawa Showbox Showcase at Mugshots tomorrow night, December 19th, at House of Targ on January 16th, and at the Branch in Kempville on January 17th. Check us out at steamers613.com and say hey on Facebook. See ya!
Cool. Yeah, that's good.
When I saw you in that hospital bed, you recognized who I was. You were so close to death, and the whole family believed you wouldn't pull through. They stared at me when I said you would. With tears and blank stares, I wrote them off that day. I didn't speak to them again. The low potassium went straight to your heart. You're not dead, but you might as well be. You were gone when I turned 17. You're not dead, but you might as well be. You were gone when I turned 17.
All right, so thank you so much, Steamers. Steamers613.com. That song was Mike. And I think we're going to be hearing a lot more from them in the future. A lot of fun bands, so a lot of fun, so check them out. And of course, check out Ottawa Showbox's. They did a review on the best albums that were put out by local bands this year. So
yeah, they're in there. It was about 20 groups or so that they put in.
20
albums.
20 groups. So definitely check that out. OttawaShowbox.com. So great stuff there. So like we said last year on our end of year special, we wanted to get Mark Monahan. So on our show,
mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. We did. We finally broke through the reins here, and we got him for our 100th episode. Thank you so much for inviting us into your lovely office with Jack and Bob.
No problem. Good to have you guys here.
Some excellent paintings that you have there. Where did you pick up the Jack White painting?
Actually, these are paintings I picked up at Bonnaroo.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
They had like an artisan village and an oil. These are original oil paintings by a guy in New Jersey that has a booth there every year. So he's a very talented painter.
Wow.
That's awesome. Do you get to travel to a lot of different festivals then?
I try to get out to several events a year.
Yeah.
Just to see what other people are doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously also to see a lot of acts live.
You must like music.
Just
taking a stab in the dark.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Which ones did you hit up last year?
I was at Bonnaroo in June. I was at Austin Cinema. I was ACL in October. And then I go to some industry conferences, like there's a Billboard music conference that I like to go to.
Okay.
Polestar, people probably know Polestar.
Of course.
They have a conference I like to go to. So there's a bunch of things and places I like to go to. So New York is always a great spot to go and see acts.
Yeah.
And Nashville.
Great music scene in Nashville. Yeah,
I love it. I love that conference center. Have you been to the new conference center?
Yeah, and that's where the Polestar conference is this year in February.
Wonderful.
So,
and of course, Third Man Records. So
yes.
So I went to.
Yeah.
Have you been to that?
I haven't,
studio?
but every year they have a really special show at the Ryman Theater, which is like a famous theater in Nashville. Really, really nice, beautiful venue.
So Jackson,
cool.
What would they talk about at the Polestar conference? What's like the agenda kind of look like?
A lot of it is just talking about the industry, like the state of the industry. And years ago, it was talking about the demise of the CD and all that. But now it's really focused on what's happening in the live music scene. So a lot of festival related topics. So things from block booking to weather issues to marketing issues to new technologies. So
Wow.
all kinds of different interesting things.
Very interesting, and things are always changing, so there's always plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So like we like to do with all of our guests, we like to get to know them, because Mark doesn't just focus 24 hours a day on Blues Fest and City Full, although I think a lot of people in Ottawa wish he did, but it's not possible. It's just not possible. But
He wants to drown their whole life.
How long have you been living in Ottawa, or what kind of area of Ottawa are you living in presently?
Well, I grew up in Ottawa, so
nice.
I actually was born in Fort Churchill, Manitoba. Moved here when I was 2. My dad was in the
You're
service.
born in Churchill?
Churchill, Manitoba, yeah.
Wow.
And my dad was in the army, so came here and settled here eventually. But grew up here in the Alta Vista area,
Nice.
Ottawa South, Alta Vista. Ridgemont, went to high school at Ridgemont, went to Carleton, took a degree in Mass Comm, and then stayed here. And was in the restaurant, nightclub business in the late 80s, early 90s, and then started the festival in 94. So that eventually became my full-time job around 2000, about year 6 or 7 of the festival. It had grown to the point where I could afford to give up the restaurant and work full-time.
How was it feeling?
That's great.
How was it feeling when you knew that you were able to do that and you'd be fine living and everything like that?
Well, actually, it wasn't a feeling that I'd be fine. It was a feeling that I hope this works. Because by no means was it and still isn't sort of a guaranteed business. We've obviously grown to a pretty substantial level now, but it was always a crapshoot. It was always a dream to be able to work full time on the festival, and but a challenge, right? And I've been very fortunate to have built a great team, great staff here, and it just makes things so much easier, so much more stable when you have the team that I have now.
How large of a team do you have approximately?
We have 12 full-time staff here.
12
that
full-time.
work year-round between Blues Fest, City Folk. We have a new festival we call the Festival of Small Halls.
Festival of Small
It's
Halls.
going to be
nice.
starting next year.
That's cool.
And then
What
we
is
have-
this Festival of Small Halls?
The Festival of Small Halls is actually based on a festival that I saw in PI when I was there last year at the ECMAs, and it's based around this notion of small communities all have a hall that the community centers around or centered around at one time.
Yeah.
So in some cases it's the town hall, sometimes it's a church or community center.
The Legion?
Legion.
Legion in a lot of small towns, yeah.
And in PEI, what they did about 5 years ago is they started this festival they call the Festival of Small Halls, and they bring in artists, traveling artists, to these halls and make a big event out of it. So it's a live music event that would be sponsored and run by community volunteers in that community, and the community comes out and has at intermission a supper and becomes a big event. And so we are now working with those folks in PI to bring that to Ontario. And
Wonderful.
we're doing an
That's
Ontario
great.
version of the Festival of Small Halls. We're going to roll it out in probably 10 to 12 communities next fall.
Surrounding Ottawa.
Not just surrounding Ottawa, but we were just down in Gananoque yesterday.
Okay.
that's good.
Picton area, Peterborough, rural areas around Ontario.
Well, that's cool. So not shooting for the cities, obviously just going for, I don't know, a bit
Small.
smaller towns. I
Very
wanna
small
say.
towns.
Oh,
Some
that's
towns
cool.
in these things will be 500 to 1,000 people.
And what sort of acts should people expect for something like that? Or is it going to be a little bit lesser named, or are you going to have big headliners?
Well, we did a pilot project in August this year with Old Man Ludica.
Okay.
So he went around and he did a show in Perth, Picton, and Tamworth, I think was the third one. But it'll be sort of, we're thinking now of partnering with Celtic Colours, which is in Cape Breton,
Okay.
and doing this sort of a Celtic theme for a series of
That's
shows.
a good idea.
Because a lot of the roots in these communities are you know, Old English Celtic roots, right? So
you know.
we're trying to bring something into these communities that wouldn't normally be there.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I hope that works. So what month do you think that would be starting?
Looking at September, October next in 2015.
October.
Sweet.
So best of luck with that. So yeah, you're living in the glebe now. Are you?
I am. I'm in the glebe. Yeah.
And any kind
Love
of any,
Yeah,
you love it,
eh?
and I love that. Just last week, it was announced that Folk Festival changed name, so it's rebranded as City Folk, and it's coming back to the glebe. And as soon as that came out, glebe, a lot of residents that were complaining about the noise just jumped right on that and
Yeah, I bet.
didn't read anything about the rest of why it's being rebranded, how it's going to work at. How it's going to work at Lansdowne, but just started complaining again. But that's another issue.
Right.
Can we talk a bit about
Sure.
City Folk and the idea
sure.
behind why the rebranding? And
Well, for years, honestly, people have been saying, "Hey, change the name to Blues Fest, right? Why do you call it Blues Fest?"
Yeah.
And honestly, the Blues Fest model was always built on not really being a true blues festival. The first year's headliners, for those that were around, were Buckwheat Zydeco, Clarence Clements, who's now died, but he's the sax player with Bruce Springsteen, and Randy Bachman. Those are the three headliners the first year. So when I talk to people about Blues Fest, it never was a pure blues festival.
Oh, okay.
But over 20 years, we've built that brand. I mean, people know Blues Fest. And what I say to people is, for us to change the name of Blues Fest now would be silly, because we've invested 20 years into that brand.
Yeah.
With Folk Festival, we really took over the running of that event 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the event really grew. The first 15 years was a brand that was built out in the West End. It was a smaller event, good, well thought of small event at Britannia. That's not the event it is today.
No, especially this past year, you had some pretty big headliners there.
Right, so we've steered it in a different direction, for better or worse. Hopefully for better, but we've established a new audience for that event, which is very different than the old crowd that went. And we felt that it was appropriate to put a little twist and a rebranding. And given the fact that we're moving the event, more centrally located, we thought the name City Folk sort of would be a good branding and sort of a fun twist on, city folk, country folk, the whole, notion that it's, a little updated, a little hipper.
Will we see the same kind of acts as the past couple previous years of Folk Fest at City Folk? Are we kind of switching away from that?
Yeah, no, I mean, you've seen sort of the direction we've gone in, right?
Yeah.
We brought in Bon Iver, and we brought in City in Colour, and we had Lord last year, and we had Foster the People, and we had the National. I mean,
J. Cole, Shad.
Yeah, I mean, these are all acts that you'll see, maybe not the same acts, but the style you'll see that we're going.
Okay.
And that's, again, we're changing the name to reflect that change in programming as well. We're sort of updating that image.
Yeah,
that's
and
all.
it will be great for Glebe, the community, and the bars, and the restaurants. And the
We think so.
Walking distance from work, easy accessibility. And what about, where are the stages? How many stages are you going to be looking at for this kind of festival?
We'll be looking at 4 or 5 stages, similar to what we've had at Hogsback. The main stage site will be on what they call the Great Lawn. So it's that area right sort of to the southeast of the Aberdeen Pavilion, next to the stadium.
So if they kick a rouge in the football stadium and the ball goes out of the stadium, it's going to hit the
front of the stage.
There you go. Back of the stage.
They've kind of built this berm on that lawn. And
in the berm, you'll be able to stand on it.
Exactly.
Oh, perfect.
You'll be viewing, to the other end, kind of thing. So,
do you find it challenging having to book musical acts for both festivals now, or is it even easier because now you can bounce sort of acts off? If you want to get somebody for Blues Fest, they might not be available, so you can pop them over to City Folk, or
it actually